And welcome back. I hope you came back so you could hear thoughts. I shared some thoughts on the Victory at Sea unboxing, but I wanted to make a separate addendum that just went in and talked about why Victory at Sea. Why am I getting into that? Alright, so first of all, I don't know much about the rules. I know they're very light and designed for quick play. You could call them beer and pretzels. And mostly what I've done on this channel has been more simulation, General Quarters 3, done some Naval Thunder, which people could argue how simulation-y that is, but it's definitely more crunchier than what I've seen from Victory at Sea. I want to use this for a gateway to help ease people into maybe more complex systems down the road if they choose to do so. Okay, so that's a small part. So the other part is I want the ships. Now, this is the hard part. If you take away the cookie base, right, and we're going to tell just the ship. So this is nice. The ships come with a built-in base that you can label specifically for the ship. And yeah, the casting on some of these are more crisp than others, but that aside, they come with a base. So the ship themselves is the concern. Now, I have found that the resin ships, to some degree, are more cost-effective than some of the other ships I've looked at in different scales. One 1800 scale is actually pretty big. It's pretty big. When you're going to play on maybe a 6x4 table and ships move at 6 inches, that means if they're moving towards each other, they're closing by 1 foot increments. That means after a couple of turns, your ships are virtually right across from each other. And a lot of conflict took place with the ships being distanced maybe miles apart. A lot of World War II happened beyond visual range. It was the carriers flying out for hundreds of miles to find the targets and attack. The actual ship duels and engagements did happen at much closer ranges, but it did happen further than just a few hundred yards apart, unless maybe it was a night action. So sometimes looking at the larger ships on the table, you lose that sense of scale of ocean, the distance between you. But I found it really hard to pass up the cost per ship versus buying my more traditional. Now, let's talk about the size. This right here, this is the, this one says the Indianapolis. This is a heavy cruiser. I think it's a heavy cruiser. I hope it's a heavy cruiser. I'm calling it a heavy cruiser. Alright, so it's a cruiser. Cruisers are bigger ships, but generally less tonnage, less armor, sometimes smaller guns. And then you have, in the 1800 scale, say this is a Musashi. Now this comes from a different line. This is not a Victory at Sea or a Warlord print. This actually comes from the older Axis and Allies ship game. But it's the Musashi there. And the scale, if I line the back of the ship up with the front, battleships are considerably bigger. So let's talk about cost. Now, 16 ships come in this game, and the starter box was about $68. And we mathed it out. So that's like about, you know, figure there's packaging items in here. You know, you got cover costs for this stuff. So if you were going to, you know, say just the ships, I wouldn't be surprised if they were taking a bit of a loss. They might not be. Maybe the resin is like $1 a ship for them. And really your ship value then is like $6 a ship. That's good for the starter box. I mean, that's real good. And I say that because let's take, for example, this is in 1/2400 scale. Now, I've done scale comparison things before, but this is talking a little bit about cost. This is the Musashi, also in 1/2400 scale, and this alone, depending on where you buy it, is close to 20 bucks for one ship. Now, for me, I'm not an expert painter, so I'm not trying to show off a paint job or anything, but I think these are incredibly, the details are crisp. Like, this is, I think these are great compared to like the resin. These metal castings are, I think, they're fantastic, top notch. So you would say, well, you're getting your 20 bucks. They got aircraft that you can put on there. Yeah, super detailed. Okay, I'm with you there. Now, but that's $20 for one ship. Or sometimes where I get these cruisers can be $10 to $15. So out of the starter box with 16 ships of various sizes from destroyers to cruisers, you're paying like $5-6 a ship versus 10 to 15 for similar ships. So the Victory at Sea, well, I guess Yamato, I don't think they do Musashi yet, but that's like $20, $22 maybe, somewhere in there. So that might actually be slightly, only a couple dollars more than say the 1/2400 scale. But again, it depends on the company and whatnot. I'm sure you could get 2400 scale ships much cheaper than what I paid for this, but the 1800 scale is definitely bigger, but a person might argue that it's not that much bigger. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, per ship, if the Victory at Sea is slightly cheaper, you know, if you buy some in bulk, like you can get the Graf Spee, and I think it's the Sheer in a box. It's like $22 or $23 for the box versus maybe $30 to buy those two ships individually elsewhere. It's like, well, why not just get the box set? You're saving $6 or something like that. So part of me was looking at this from a cost standpoint. Now again, I'm just talking about based maybe on retail prices and prices I've seen. I'm sure if you buy things secondhand or whatever, you can get really nice GHQ models for fairly cheap. But I'm looking, you know, like it's almost cheaper to get these. And maybe because resin is so much cheaper to cast than the full metal ships that you get, that could be. And that's probably the thing, is the resin is cheaper. But for me, I think I'll be okay with that. If it lets me get more ships, then that might be the way to go. So I'm going to set you aside, because I mean, I still love these, and who knows, maybe I'll go back to collecting that scale, but I'm going to get these. So here's the other thing too, again, talking about scale. Let me bring you back for a second. I'm going to have to play some games using some of my other rule sets to see just how different these are going to be. I remember I played some Naval Warfare, maybe 1 or 2 GHQ battles using my topside minis, which are the flat, like the stickers on a base. Beautiful artwork, and they're 1/1800 scale as well, and it does make the table feel smaller, and then the illusion of gunnery is lost on the bigger scale. But I'm looking here, 1/2400 is pretty popular here in America. I'm told Europe does like 1/3000, which is just ever so slightly smaller. But again, it's about finding that balance between what looks right on the table. You know, in one scale, you know, 2 ships that are this far apart in this size, like this is point blank. But your rules, you might have a rule set that says, oh no, that's medium range. It's like, you know, that's pretty close. But if you have 1/6000 ships this far apart in 1/6000 scale, you know, that's more believable. That might be medium distance. So I'll have to, you know, prep some of these up and then play a little bit just to see how it feels. How does it look on the table, putting them close together, and you're telling me that that's like a mile apart. It should be like maybe a foot is a mile. You know, I don't know. Your scales, who knows? But that's been my concern, is how are these going to look on the table, trying to play my more simulation games. I think it'll be okay. You know, especially paint these up, clip them. They'll look nice on the table, I think. But, yeah, that whole terrain to figure scale thing. But really, I mean, you know, this is 1/800 scale Musashi, and I don't remember if this was the Yamato or the Musashi. I think maybe people who can identify things quickly will know for sure. But it's bigger. It's noticeable. Yeah, it's bigger. 1/1800 is bigger. If I was putting like that, I was like, yeah. But you know, if I match them up, bow to bow there, yeah. There's a size difference. But moving 6 inches is 6 inches. See, that's the thing is, you know, these ships, depending on the game you play, if I move this one 6 inches and move that 6 inches, they're both moving 6 inches, but I think it mostly has to do when you start measuring ranges that you start to feel like the table is too small. Because measuring 6 inches from this ship to another ship of the same scale, it feels maybe a little more right than saying 6 inches from this scale to, say, this destroyer or this cruiser and telling me that's medium range. You lose some of that immersion of reality. So that would be why I don't like the 1/1800 scale. But I've seen these painted up, and some of the models look great, and the resin I think is going to be a little more affordable in the long run. I mean, because part of the cost of the kit when you buy it is not just the resin ship alone. It's you got to pay for the data sheet, the box, packaging, and the other stuff that comes with it to make that ship playable in your game. So that's part of the cost right there. Possibly you might see a secondary market come up for these where you can buy individual ships easier, maybe. Maybe you can save money that way. But that was kind of what brought me into this game, is possibly a cheaper alternative to buy a lot of ships at some point. Because the starter kits are going to come with a bunch of ships too, and they're like $100, $108, depending on where you buy it, $100. But if you still get like 10 ships, that's $10 a ship versus paying $15 to $20 per ship to get the same amount of ships. You're saving quite a bit of money. So their starter packs, I think, are going to be a great value. And that's why I'm saying the starter kit is also a great value. So if you can find a rule set that works well with the 1800 scale, then I think this is going to work out just fine. I think the only thing is I just got to figure out how hot the water needs to be to try and bend these suckers back down so they're more flat. But luckily it's only a few that have that problem. Otherwise, yeah, I guess that's maybe a short addendum. I think that was mostly what I wanted to talk about, was the cost, why I wanted to get them. And I think it really deals with the cost. Once they're painted up, I think they're going to look great. I've seen some paint jobs. I'm going to have to practice that, but some people do really good, like with the wake and then the ship itself, and they look great. And I do understand that some of these are cast better than others. It really depends on the resin that they used, but I think overall it's going to be playable. And that's one reason I didn't want to glue the turrets. See, these are pinned in, these Axis and Ally ones, and you can turn the turret. They don't fall out though, and these don't have a way to pin in. You might have to very tiny magnets or something. I don't know what you could do. So you could use the turrets, have them not get lost, but yet have the ability to rotate your turrets. Because I've seen some of these where folks glue the turrets into this firing position. Looks super dramatic. We're firing our lasers. Pew, pew, pew. But what if my ships are on this side that I'm shooting at? Yeah. So I don't want to glue them in, but I have a pretty strong feeling that if I don't glue them in, just so I could rotate them, they're going to get lost. Alright, there's just some random thoughts. I just wanted to add a quick little addendum to the unboxing video. I don't really have any other thoughts that I want to cover on that. Mostly the figure to terrain scale and cost. Those were the two big reasons why I decided to hop into this. Now the actual rules in the game itself, I cannot comment because I have not played it. I haven't even read them yet. I just unboxed it. Now I've seen some people play a little bit, and I would want to say that the rules definitely fall on the beer and pretzel side of things, and I think that's great. Sometimes you just want to put the ships out and play. You don't want to have to worry about, complicated, complexity. Just enjoy your game. And I think that will be an experience that you get with this. I just want to lay them out, play. But I think the miniatures would be great to use with other game systems. Probably my only concern that I'm really trying to talk myself into is that I can work with the figure scale to terrain scale and be happy with it. And I'm still trying to find my blue dice. Alright, thanks for watching the addendum. Yeah, leave some thoughts too. What do you think? Are you going to get this? Did you get it? Are you not going to get it? And why? Why did you get it? I'm just curious. But I will see you on another video. Thanks for watching. Bye.